So I was asked to offer a little bit of insight and some of my experience around working with people. You know, you named it, cultural field. When I began to prepare this a little bit while you guys were working, I decided to call the art of people. For some reason. The art of people collaborating, learning, and co-creating for useful results. I think in the beginning of my own journey into this more collaborative way of working, we were almost afraid of results because we came out of such convergent way of being educated and taught, and everybody knew beforehand what we were going to do and this. So that whole machine thinking. And then for some it just became, let's just open, and then another question, and another question, and then more questions, and so many questions. And then 2 years later, nothing has really happened. And you have fatigue inside of yourself. And so today I am absolutely not afraid of useful results. But how we create them and who creates them, and what those results can lead further to, is maybe more. That's what's really deeply interesting. And I have a feeling that the kind of stuff we are investigating these years, I mean, this is just one out of a billion little things that are happening around the world where people are investigating what is the kind of leadership. This is my driving question for having been an organizer for many years in my career, and being both the little guy in the bottom and then raising all the way to the top of the tops, and feeling the loneliness of the long distance runner. I'm the one and only jockler, and I must be the best. I don't know if you know that song, I'll play it for you after. It's a beautiful song from my youth. I'm the one and only jockler, and I must be the best. So nothing happens, in my experience, without people, or without at least one person. And the way I was, many of the professional places I've been working, so little to the fear of relationships, the fear of the personal field, the fear of just being friendly with each other. Sacrificing good, respectful relationships for efficiency, and putting fame and money and not the well-being of everybody in the middle. And we live in a very warped time where some of this is taking so much over and so many people are being hurt by it, including those people who exercise that kind of leadership. So I've been on this dance of how to organize well. I told you a little bit this morning of having co-created hundreds of organizations and put them back in the box, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one, and then another one. When you work at little conferences, that's what you do. Sometimes, a team of 500 people and a budget of $40 million and 2 years of preparation and translation services and hotels and speakers, and you're juggling like crazy. And after a while, of course, you realize if you try to be the one and only juggler, you will completely get exhausted. So I began to become really interested in what is the elements that allow self-organizing to be released. Because I had experienced in my groups of friends, but then in organizational life it was like, no, you can't release this power because then you tickle with the top. So this is from some of Margaret Wheatley's work that first really caught me. in this. And to me, Margaret's best book is the one called A Simpler Way. At least it inspired me the most. And now she's writing quite depressing kind of books. But this book was like she somehow could begin to describe with Myra Kellner Rogers how nature works and how we could begin to translate how nature works into organization, life, and leadership. And I was really hungry for this, and it was actually Uffe who when I first became friends, she showed me that and said, "This is for you and Monica to read. I think you will like it." But in this book, she describes something, the triangle of what it takes for self-organizing to be released, and I think it might be relevant for our work today. She says, always there needs to be an intent. I mean, we call it need, purpose, and people call it vision, but an intent. Call something you want to do. You want to shift how candidates are working together because you have seen the weakness of the lonely and the competitive jugglers and so forth. So clear intent, we could say need and purpose. The other is relationships. And I like to call it respectful relationships. It doesn't mean that we can't have a difference of opinion, but we respect each other's life. That's where I like to meet other people. So I don't really care what your political or religious beliefs are, but can you meet me and can I meet you from being human in this moment? Without any fear, without any pretense, just, this word authenticity that's also becoming popular, but something real. Just, hey, how are you? And there's a sense of, we can see each other. And that happened to some of us yesterday. We were like we hadn't met before. And it took a little while, but when that happens, to me, that's what we are after. It's not, nice relationships. The worship of just being polite with each other. It's not the time for politeness. It's time to be real and be yourself. And then, of course, producing something useful. And they had studied, Myron and Meg, many of the living natural systems and see that these things are always in play. Some intentionality, some collaboration, something relationship between the different parts, whether it's water, seed, air, or it's a priest and an NGO guy and a host, or whatever. But relationships between people who then share that intentionality. And can respect each other, and don't try to make each other like yourself. And then let's grow something. The Hopi says, I love this litmus test of the Hopi Indians. Have you ever met any Hopi Indians? They're very cool. So you can sit and work for a whole day, and then they will come with this question. So, will it grow corn for the people? So you can ask yourself that question. Actually, it could be like, will it grow corn for the people? Will it grow corn for the people? And if it won't, then they won't show up.
Will die in a minute after that question.
And then,
it's a killer.
And then they won't show up the next day. But if there's a possibility that it will grow corn for the people, or good food for the people, clear politicians who will make good decisions on behalf of the grandchildren, then that's so that's one thing. I think that triangle is an important little thing of tending to. If those things are in place, what they discovered was that then the self-organizing power is released. There's where we met actually in Vorarlberg in Austria. That's their purpose of the little office of Büro für Zukunftsfragen, Office for Future-Related Questions. It's a public institution mandated with a budget that's secure for 10 years, no matter what political party is there. And the purpose of this little office is to help this self-organizing power for resilience between all citizens to be released. Not save the whales, save the trees. People who are living in a more self-organizing space and know what they're doing and have good relationships are not afraid to manifest results. They can tackle many, many more problems. They can put many purposes in here. But if those things are not in place, we are here, we have bad relationships, and we are afraid to get stuff done. All we need to do is try to get stuff done, but we're not really having any roots to it, which is what we're trying to do today. So maybe that's enough. We can think about this, but there's something about, and now their capacity building, this is what we've been doing together with them. It started 6 years ago, just yesterday, it was a little celebration. First little meeting, and there's 1,000 people who now know how to use art hosting and collaborative methodology. Designing for Wiser Action is something they do every second month, so anybody can come with their projects and they help each other out from all the different sectors. This is a region, if you haven't visited, you should go if you're interested. It's 500,000 people living there, into the valleys, into the towns, into the different systems. The other thing I wanted to suggest is layers of people. Now I will begin to come into this dance between circle, hierarchy, network, and bureaucracy. Some of us, we love the hierarchy, we don't want to let go of it. Some of us love to hate the hierarchy. And some of us love circles so much, but if anything, begins to become unconscious democracy, like my cousin, she spent 30 years in the collective movement here in Denmark, creating Låsby collective. The first 10 years they had a rule that everybody had to decide everything in these stormøder. But then nobody had the clarity to decide what was big enough for 30 or 50 people to sit for a day to decide whether should we use pink toilet paper or should we use white toilet paper or should it be Genbrugs toilet paper? And some of us, it's a hard question. So what you put in the middle and how you organize is really important. The Hobbes speaks about it in his chaotic description of the chaotic organizational pattern that they found that created the visa, that only those things that has to do with purpose, principles and practices should be decided at the core, because they are principles for them. But anything that can be decided by a local team or anything, because if everything is decided centrally, what happens is that people either become slaves or revolutionaries, or apathy begins to grow, and you don't grow responsibility. And so I think the alternative is an incredible playing ground for how you will be able to crack this over the coming years and stick with the principles that's emerging. So let me try and name these circles and see if they make sense to you, because they will relate to that stuff some of you have begun on, but you will want to maybe go deeper to it. And this is just from my own learning, so I'm not discussing the right and wrong of it, but you can take it and use it if you want, if there's something useful there. First of all, never have a person in the center. Always the purpose in the center. The highest collective aspiration of any group. And I think in our way of working here, we have said there is need, and need, clarity of need gives rise to purpose. If you have collective clarity of purpose, you have an invisible leader rising amongst those people who share that collective clarity of purpose. But don't assume that people who have not been part of that will automatically share it with you. That assumption can cost you, and has cost many lives, I think, already. The second is then, I would say, the caller. So we have 6 of you who have called for help, not just because you didn't know what to do today, but you have serious work and we would like to support you with it. So the caller can become callers. It's nice to be calling with a few people, like the 3 of us called this thing here. If it is just one, it's vulnerable. So the callers doesn't necessarily need to know what to do, but they are there to hold the call. The disturbance, that which is not right, that injustice that we want to shift, or that things that are not working well. So I think there's something about honor the callers, and I'm just trying, part of my work in the world now is really to have more people when they step forward, even with great trembling and nervousness, like, where are you? I'm scared, but it's in me. And I remember the moment I began to call out of hosting, I was trembling, because somewhere I knew that this was going to stick to me. And so far it has, though I never want to be in there. I don't think I have been in there. Some people have either tried to put me there or try to remove me. But as I know I'm not there, that's not my problem. I'm very clear. My question was very clear from the beginning. What is the art of hosting and harvesting conversations that matter? Is the kind of leadership that allows everybody to learn. Learning being how human beings have survived for 200,000 years. So self-organizing and learning comes together. Self-organizes allows a place where we can learn from everything, moment by moment, not by books, but by being together and being alone in nature, or however you do it. But it's just a state of awakeness where everything can be interesting and you can learn from it. So first the callers, they call it. They sit around the fire and blow on it, but they're asking for help, and such a core group can come forth. Core group are those who are also have a desire to fulfill the purpose and are not afraid to move on it. But they also can be a combination of skills. So if you are a caller and you want to engage people, but you don't know how to hold conversations with 200 people, you need to invite people in your core group who know how to do that shit. And then you need to learn with them, so next time you can do a little bit more and it can grow. So core group are those who will they are responsible for the process, not the content. Core group. Partners. They may not be completely on fire at that, but they will give you a room to be in, or they will give you a sponsorship of $10,000 because they would like to see this happen, but they are strategic partners. Tim calls them cheering from the sidelines. They may not be that interested, but great, you're doing this, man. And if you need a little bit of help or an ear, call me, we can have a coffee. But I have other fires I'm part of. Then comes the stakeholders. Those who have a stake in this need and purpose. The stakeholders are responsible for the content. The core group is responsible for the process. When this clarity has been established, I have found we can do our best work. But sometimes you think it's all one thing, and you have to have everybody in the room about everything, and it just becomes messy. One of the ways that I gauge, one of my practices is to say, there can be, you can have as much influence, decision power, as you're ready to take responsibility. If you're not ready to take part of the responsibility of the economy, you will have less decision power, or maybe non-decision power about the money. Because those of us whose ass is on the line would, we need to be part of deciding, but if you just want to have opinions about money, but you're not ready to put your hand in your own pocket or sign a contract or something, why should you have the right to decide about it? Just because something is called, you know what democracy really means? Demos means people, krasi means purpose. Those people who are ready to gather around a common good purpose and make it come true, if it's worthwhile, for more people than yourself. Stakeholders, and of course you could say there's a community, country, world, planet. Because they're basically stakeholders. And somehow, I thought in the beginning you had to choose either this, but I found that everything, when this pattern came to us, we began to, sometimes when we were creating, we had stakeholder conversations about what is really need and purpose. And then we said, now we need to organize ourselves in order to begin to work. And we would draw this up huge with 150 people. We did this for the healthcare project in Columbus. And then we described the different responsibilities as we could see it from the calling and core team group. And then we had people go and stand where they wanted to help this, but in the layers. And in that way we created. And we had then explained, here certain decisions are made. Here we are working on the content. If you want to be a stakeholder and you also want to come in and be part of the core team, then you're moving up in taking more responsibility. And it was a beautiful way of gauging it. And then when those things were, hey Sophia, welcome. This is Sophia from
Share over
There's a
here.
chair right here. I don't know.
you just arrived from Canada?
From Brussels.
All right, okay. So you can play with this because one thing is to put names in there, but how are you going to make it come alive? In this particular case, we then had those who had stood there, they would speak, so everybody heard it. We stood in circles, and they spoke why they have chosen to be there and what they would like to contribute. And then they sat down, and then they talked about what are the, now we had given an indication of what we could see could be the responsibility of that, but now there was a group beginning to form, so they sat down and began to expand that responsibility, and also what were the gifts that they were given by standing there. So you can play with this depending. I put this little thing, this is a recent thing I've begun to work with, and I call it the vanguard. Sometimes we are working with many teams and many big teams. A vanguard is it's actually an old army, those who come first, and they check out it's safe to come there. And I think in the beginning we didn't have much vanguard in Scotland. It was like everybody part of every single decision, and we just wasted it. It was painful. We made it work, but yeah, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So a little vanguard who take the responsibility of certain decisions, and they are honored by the others. It's not like, are you trying to claim power over us?
Mm-hmm.
It's actually a service you're doing to the rest of the field. And if there is kindness and respect, then you can actually bring in. I've heard that one of the meanings of hierarchy means clarity rules. Now it has become a bad word because many people are misusing this power. But let me then just a few more things, and then you can get back to your work there. So archetypally, now I'm moving into ways of organizing in a structural way.
One question to the vanguard. That is steward energy, or what kind of?
It can
what do
be,
you say?
for
Should
example,
be
we're
steward.
doing this Warrior of the Heart training next week. 35 people are coming. We have 4 of us organizing it. We are the vanguard. So we have put our hats on the line, we share the economic responsibility, we have rented the venue, you know, we are inviting other people, and now a few of the people said they wanted to come, and you know, so they
Okay.
you know, some come in and say, we will help, you know, create the food or something. But the vanguard are the decision makers, they are the leadership of the network.
They're risk takers.
They are risk takers, and they are also making the best decisions they can do. If this is clear, I have seen no problem with this. But if that is not clear, and if the vanguard is not serving the purpose and the people, this is where, you know, power over rather than having power together, power to do things. Can you hear the, you know, this is some of my best learnings in this, and I see so much painful shit going on, both in the grassroots movements, in the AGO, in the governments I've been working. Everybody's fiddling around with this, and I see this as the beginning of a next organizational paradigm. And everything we do in Kofunda, we have these layers we have practiced with, and we're beginning. It has a rhythm now. It was a bit hard in the beginning. But I think after 7-8 years, it just clicked in. And anybody can, so this can rotate. So the leadership council, the core team, the vanguard on behalf of this village has decision power of the most important things. But it's always tested out with the community, and next year other people will be elected in there, so it rotates. And we're all learning to take more and less responsibility and not be the one and only juggle, and I must be the best. Juggling power, juggling process, juggling money. What else? Juggling substance, content, the work. So if in here you could say these three layers or these three structures can juggle many more balls than one person, if they are in alignment and respectful relationship. And this is why it's so important. If you have invested in that, you create a good team, it can last for years. And for some of us, it lasts for a lifetime. And we can do 100 projects. You just need to say, hey, you want to be part of it? And it just clicks in, and you don't need to have to start from the beginning. So, one last one. I have practiced Aikido, Japanese self-defense, and Jiu-Jitsu since I was a little boy. And the guy who named this practice called it also a practice of peace. It's a way of not being afraid of being attacked, because you can move out of the line of it. And he said in one of his letters, he never wrote any books or anything, he wrote letters to some of his students, and he said in one of them, if you can practice in the moment, circle, triangle, and square, all at the same time, you will be invincible. And being a little warrior that I am, I thought, that's pretty cool. What would invincible mean in this world of complexity and chaos and hurt and suffering and all of that, and a lot of beauty? So I began to try and see if I could learn from this and apply it to my leadership and my organizational work with others. So this is what I have understood. This is, the circle is a midwife kind of energy. Midwife. It's good for reflection. A leaderly chair. Respectful relationships. Everybody is alive as a human being. That's the best. Of course, therefore, we should respect each other. You can die any moment and it'll be over. So, this is then the, and this of course is the feminine kind of energy. This is warrior action, and James talked about it earlier. This is the directional, and this is the relational. And then this is stewarding Eagle Wisdom Council, Elder Energy. It's so lovely to have one or two people who have been in the battles, who have been in it, that you can turn to and just go and have a chat. And you know they will love you like your grandmother and your grandfather, even if you have fucked up. Doesn't matter to them. Because they care for you and they care for the heart of the project. We would love to see young people not committing suicide. You know, it pains me to know that this is happening in every country now. That's a disease. And so anybody who comes to me and says, would you be at my back around kids, you know, you trying to work and shifting that, you can count on me because I care about that. And if I also can care about you because you trust me and I trust you, we've got something, and it's uncomplicated. And at any moment you can call your mate or your, and we can all be that. It's so not a matter of age, you know. You may be that in another project for somebody else, which is why we put it up there. Think about one or two people that you trust, that you could invite to be in your wisdom council. But they will, you know, you cannot go in there unless you invite them. It's by invitation only, like they say in the villages in those tribes in Canada, that the community makes you an elder. It's not because you're an old seasoned CEO who can be your mentor. It's being called out of you. Marianne, who started Kofunda, she did this to me in the age of, you were there, 48 years old. She said, Toke, will you be an elder? Or for the, what was it called, Pioneers of Change. And I was looking, you know, who are you talking? You're talking to my mother or my grandma? It was a very scary moment. It took me a long time to accept that. So remember, it's a call from the heart. Because you want that space to be of consciousness, not of anything else. Useful? Any insights, questions? Yeah.
I was just wondering if you could speak a little bit to why the square, the circle and the triangle.
Yeah. Thanks. So because you could say this is grassroots and this is hierarchy in a generic form. And haven't we all, then we are part of the revolutionary movement against the church, or then we are on the church, you know, we are the Catholic Church, and we are going to get those Cathars and eradicate them because they're dangerous to the church. So this dance has been going on forever. And then every once in a while I realized that when they came together, you start in a circle, you clarify purpose, you clarify relationships, then you can begin to divide out the different tasks. So some people take care of the money, some people take care of the harvesting, some people take care of the venue. And then you begin to have the bureaucracy in little hierarchies, but it's circumvented by the wisdom of the circle. But it kept falling apart. Because you would have some people who would put, what was Nile, you know, somebody said yesterday that there's forces within your party, someone just took action, and someone said, no. But how can that grow together? And this is where I realized the square could come in. So this is my assumption, but I'm testing it in every possible way I can. If you invite one or two or four people trusted to hold different eldership in your project, they can have the function of helping you get back on purpose, which is, remember that year, Stephen, when it's like the Knut family on one side and you guys wanted more money, and you know, it was like you were about to start a union, and it's like everybody was tearing their heads out. It was like, And then we asked the question in the circle, what is the purpose of Kofunda village anyway? Can we remember? It's learning. The business of this village is learning, which is why it's called Kofunda. It means the learning village in Shona language. But it was because a couple of us who have been invited to be eagles, we were there and we could call that conversation. And from that moment on, we began to see, because we all remembered what the purpose was. So I suggest, as you, however big or small your project is, try and begin, if you haven't already, to play a little bit with Heaven and Little Wisdom Council at your back. That's what that little circle means. And you can try and experiment. So with anything we do now, I'm having two of my mates doing a very important job that is involving, the Bundestag in Germany and big sustainability think tank and really powerful market also is working on it. And they had lost, they were about to lose connection with the stakeholders. And they asked me to be their eagle for 1 hour on a phone call on Sunday. And because they asked me that way, I could say things to them that I couldn't have, if they had not invited me to be in that position, and they wanted, no hierarchy, we don't, we as good as you, and we don't want to put you on a bit of all of that crap. It was basically help, because they were losing it. And it could have been me or Mary Alice or Monica or any of you, whoever has that kind of capacity. But in 1 hour, I could just hear like, and they found back there. And then from there we could begin to see, okay, maybe a little new start. So. And you can also, in a subtle sense, I think, begin to notice that there's room for capacity and strength in this. There's no room for over-egoing or playing games with each other. You show up. And this is, I have really been looking for, I don't like to be part of communities of practice where we have to be mediocre because we are afraid anybody getting too brilliant. That's not what the world is needing. It's needing us to be not brilliant in the sense of ego, but that we are skillful and that we are useful and that we can be dependent upon. So I hope this was useful for you.